Joining us now is another special guest to talk to us about the significance of Women's Day, the theme this year, and the role that women play in sustainability efforts, driving us towards a sustainable future. I'm delighted to welcome Dr. Vibha Dhawan. She is Director General, the Energy and Resources Institute. Ma'am, thank you very much for your time. Glad to have you with us on this telecast. First of all, wishing you a very happy Women's Day.
Thank you so much.
The global thank you. The global theme of International Women's Day 2025 is Accelerate Action. It's interestingly and incidentally coinciding with the discussions that we've seen in the last 2.5 days at the World Sustainable Development Summit. Your perspective on the theme, the timeliness and the relevance, particularly because the SDG on gender neutrality is worryingly off track.
That's right. See, in a way, I always say that while women has equal population, unfortunately, we neglect them. Let it be any sphere. And I always say right from the tractors, while we know so many women are involved in agriculture, are they friendly for them to drive? The answer is no. Even the seat belts in the cars which we drive, they are not women friendly. It's so difficult to wear them. So we even neglect their basic needs somewhere. And of course, I won't say all, but still 10 to 20% of our families, even they don't want a girl child. It is something like that they feel they won't be able to do it. What will we do? They'll go to another house. They forget that they are equally or rather more important, because I always say if you educate a woman, because by nature and they are more responsible for upbringing their children. They are the ones who teach them. They are the ones who cook for them. They are the one therefore responsible for their health. So therefore their contribution in terms of bringing up the families somehow is more than the men counterpart, which should not be the case, because I always say child is responsibility of both, but still women accept more of that responsibility. And I'll go back to when I was a child, and I'm talking of many, many years back. And fortunately, we are two sisters, and therefore I never had to feel that differentiation at home. But I did had friends, and it was something like their brother will be going to a public school and they will be going to government school. And it was also, at that time, it was usually said, learn cooking, you have to do that, you have to take care of house. Why not? We ask the same question to the boy. He should also learn, why not? But that is where I should say the society or even the mothers are responsible, that why should they differentiate between their two children? So that is one thing which needs to be brought about. Now let's also look at that what happens. And in fact, yesterday when James Q was there for TERI University convocation, and we were giving degrees, and he said, initially he said, it's not a girls' university. I said, no, but he said then the ratios are very different. And we started giving the awards, and I don't remember the exact number, how many awards were there. But I'll say, if I remember the number correctly, it was about 12 to 13 girls and about 4 boys getting the awards, which was Toppers Award. And that is true, even when I was a student, it was almost similar. And let's look at class 10 and class 12 results. Isn't it, again, the toppers are more girls? And you go for even PhD degrees, and again, you'll find there are more girls. Any college, wherever I go. But then where do these girls disappear? And that is the saddest part, because we don't, the society, the families are still not giving them opportunities. It is like, I compare that, of course, not in my place, definitely not. But in many families, it is that if the male member of the family comes late, it is something like you are tired. But if the woman comes late, then it is regarded as you have missed your responsibility. She's treated like that. And even well-educated families, there I find that, sorry, once you have a baby, please quit the job. or at least for few years, but that few years cost her dearly. She can never come back to work, or she misses on the opportunities. So that is, we have to overcome. And I always say, it's not just how you bring up your daughter, you also have to bring up your son in similar way. He also needs to understand what his responsibilities towards the family are.
So, very rightly said, there is, what's required is the change in mindset, also the kind of support base that we are creating for women. But at the policy level, what needs to change to incorporate the participation of 50% of the population?
Well, I'll say policies are great. I won't blame the government at all. Like, there are policies which encourage women. There are policies even in terms of like programs, like you can come back to research. So I'm forgetting the name of that scheme. But if you have, after your PhD, if you haven't done research for a decade or so, you can definitely come back and government will encourage you. So the policy support is there. First of all, I'd say somewhere women are weak themselves. They have to stand up. No one is going to stand up for them. And it is, they have their own identity. Why do they think they are dependent on the male member? They should say, I'm equal member, we are partners. And therefore, even in terms of earning bread for the family, I'm equally responsible as you. And it is like, once you have respect for the woman, if the husband respects his wife, that she is also tired, she has worked, or she has brighter future, I think you win the battle.
The World Sustainable Development Summit, was very well curated by TERI, for which I would like to congratulate you and your team. Climate resilience was one area in which we saw extensive discussions. What is the kind of link that you see between gender parity and climate resilience?
Yeah. You're absolutely right, and especially when we look at who gets impacted by the climate change. It's each one of us, but the degree varies. And not so much in the urban atmosphere, because over here we all have more or less the basic necessities of life met. When we go to rural areas, let's look at what is the woman of the house doing. She has such hard life. I have heard someone saying that my daughter doesn't want to go to the village because she doesn't want to work in the field. And it was, and the explanation given to me was that in rural families, they'll get up early in the morning, they'll take care of the animal, then they'll prepare food. Their husbands will go to the field, but then the work at home is far tougher. I have seen it myself in Mukteshwar. Young girls and women, they'll walk miles and miles to collect firewood. And one of my forester friend, he told me that, of course I was discussing with him about the forest and people collecting firewood from there. And he said that, what can we do? We had stopped a few ladies and in their mid 50s or early 60s, and we told them that please leave the wood and go. And the answer given to them was, who will cook? We need firewood to cook food, and therefore without that we can't go, and our husbands will beat us without food. So therefore you take whatever action you want to, or otherwise you put us in the jail so that we don't have to go home. We can't go without wood. So then the third problem, and that is related to firewood. Go to households in many villages even today. Of course, one must compliment the government for Ujjwala Yojana, and therefore there is access to clean fuel now. But till some time back, and TERI had done a lot of studies on indoor air pollution. So because what they will be burning is the wood which is available to nearest location kind, and not really looking into the smoke that will come out of it. Let's also look at, because when I say have-nots, the families in rural India, even today, the practice is that they'll start with the eldest member of the family, male members, then the kids, and then whatever is left over will be eaten by the women of the house. So they are malnourished. So they are suffering from pollution. No one bothers because they are the ones who are responsible for cooking. They are the ones, no one cares for their health. And it's really sad. And of course it's improving, but I have heard in some places it's so bad that if the woman of the house is unwell and so is one of the animals, they'll say we'll treat the animal because we can always, our son can get married again, but it will be very difficult for us to buy the animal. So if you have that kind of mindset, it's very difficult.
You're right. Things are moving. There are changes here and there that are happening. But again, the question is about the rapid pace at which it should happen, but it's not happening. Yeah. There's a startling number from the World Economic Forum which says at the current rate of progress, gender parity will become a reality only by 2158, which is, we are talking at least 5 generations ahead of us. What is the kind of quantum jump that we need to take to ensure that gender parity is something that we are able to see in our lifetime?
Well, I'm very hopeful. And especially the steps we are taking and the way the technology is developing. And I'll tell you the reason why. And I have given you cases which are little older times, especially when we are talking of access to cleaner fuel and so on. In terms of improved cook stoves, if we look at the story, India is the most successful country. So therefore, we are taking care of providing cleaner fuel to the kitchens in the rural India. So those are government initiatives and one must compliment them for that. The other is that if we look at education, we do have schools and it is possible for them to send their children to the nearby cities for education. And there are girls' colleges as well, so they are quite happy to send their children. They feel it's safe. Their daughters are safe there and they do study. Now, what is the hitch even today? Because once they come back to the village, they have no job, means very few job opportunities. And what is now going to happen? Because if we look at why rural India's development was not that fast, one of the limiting factor was energy. And what we are looking today, we already have solar PVs, we already have biogas, and therefore, even for the rural development, the possibility or what is needed is to create other job opportunities at the village level. It can be simple food processing, it can be anything, and that will all become possible once the energy is available to them. We are also looking at, sometimes we say that e-marketing or e-platforms. I personally feel that's again a great opportunity for small entrepreneurs who can be from the rural India as well. And there are examples, it's successful examples, and those entrepreneurs going even to the global level after they succeeded or they just started with 2 or 3 people and with not highly educated women. And simple things like, okay, you grow mushroom, but where will you sell it? So therefore you have to create market. And that can be done through e-platforms today. So they can find the market for what they are doing. So therefore, when you say, I don't think so that transition is going to take that long. It is that it's going to be pretty fast, provided there is willpower from their end also to work.
You're right. Okay, so now let me bring in the India context, because this year the Indian government has decided to have its own theme, celebrate Women's Day in its own way. And the theme this year is Viksit Bharat with Nari Shakti. How do you see and how significant, according to you, is this step towards reflecting India's commitment to now move from women empowerment to women-led development?
Yeah, I repeatedly say that when you educate a man or a boy, you are educating an individual. When you educate a woman, you are educating the family. And that is what is Nari Shakti. And woman has the most important role to shape her family, because she's the one who is going to teach her children. So therefore, education of girl child is extremely important. Once they understand the importance of education and dignified life, they start looking for opportunities of working outside the usual homemaker. That gives them empowerment, economic empowerment, to make decisions. And that is what is actually going to build the country. Because if you don't use half of your population, what will you do? Because otherwise, I shouldn't be saying, but then it is their husbands or families who will have to earn for them, who will have to, and then they take decisions, because they are the ones who are bringing money to the house, and therefore they take the decision how that money is to be spent. And we have seen it in a lot of experimentation that we have done in the rural part or otherwise, that when the woman earns money, her first priority is that she wants to build her house. She will never spend that money in buying alcohol or other things. It is more of, I want my children to be educated. And sometimes it's, I don't want my child to slog like me, and therefore I am looking forward to their brighter future. So if India has to develop, it's very clear, it's our youth has to develop, and that can only be achieved by women through women empowerment.
You're right. Before we wrap up the conversation, one last message that you would want to share to the young women, the change makers of tomorrow, who will be in the real sense in the driving seat and bringing about that change that we are talking about today.
Well, I tell everyone, first of all, you have to believe in yourself. And by that I mean, never think that I'm inferior to in any aspect, rather think that I'm superior, because I have this unique capability of multitasking. And the other is that there is no shortcut to hard work. You have to be passionate. You have to set your goal. And the moment you say, this is what I want to be, and you start working towards it, no one can stop you.
Okay. Thank you for that inspiring message. Absolute pleasure to have this conversation with you on the occasion of Women's Day. Once again, wishing you a happy Women's Day and congratulations on a successful WSDS.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with that, viewers, it's a wrap on this edition. Thank you once again for your time as well.
Thank you.
To watch more programs of Sansad TV, subscribe to our YouTube channel and don't forget to like and share them.